Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, and welcome to the Persistence Payoff Show. We're here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm your host, Kim SCHAFER. I'm the inventor of the Ring Thing, a waterproof ring holder. I'm a first-time entrepreneur and really enjoying this next phase of life. This show is focused on the quality of persistence, what it takes to persist, what are the payoffs for each of us, and those can happen in our personal lives and in our professional lives. One of the things that really interests me about persistence is that it's something that's available to all of us at any time, at any moment. If we're pursuing a dream, a goal, or even a simple task, we have the choice to whether to persist or to give up. And I'm really interested in diving into that and finding out what makes people continue and push through challenges. There's so many stories about people at the top of their game who have pushed through and persisted. I just recently heard a podcast with Hans Vestberg, who's the CEO of Verizon. He started with Ericsson in the accounting department, and his first job was checking travel expenses. And as he said in the podcast, he said he wasn't very good at it at that time. He rose through the ranks and became CEO of Ericsson, and now he's the CEO of Verizon with almost 250,000 people working for him. So he definitely pushed through a lot. There are also stories of athletes who continually stay after practice to put in the extra work to hone their craft, and scientists who continue to do their experiments over and over again and refine them until they get the answer to their questions. And I wanted to read a quote from Albert Einstein about this. So Albert Einstein said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." So I thought that was pretty inspiring. I'm interested in talking with people who have this quality of persistence and to learn from them about their hows and their whys and what lessons they can share with us. So that leads me to our guest today, and I'm just so excited to have her here. Cary.Williams has had a really interesting career as a boxer, a coach, a motivator, a fitness gear line developer, and an innovator, inventor. So I'm really interested in learning from her about her journey. As background, over the past 27 years in the boxing and fitness industry, Cary has been featured on NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox, as well as in national publications such as Shape, Energy, Fitness, Entrepreneur, Inc., Success, FHM, USA Today, and the New York Times. Cary has even graced the cover of Muscle and Fitness Hers and appeared on the popular NBC show Fear Factor, as well on Extra and on Lifetime Network as a trainer on the show Fit to Fat to Fit, and on CNBC's Billion Dollar Buyer. Cary has contributed to numerous national publications, news shows on TV and radio. She is also a keynote speaker, giving motivational speeches at venues and schools on a regular basis. In the boxing world, Cary boxed competitively in the amateurs and won the Pacific Northwest Women's Tournament before hanging up her gloves. She is now a level 4 Olympic-level boxing coach with USA Boxing. Cary has trained many boxers, some of which have made it to the Olympic trial qualifying tournaments. Cary caught the attention of many when she trained and cornered a female boxer for 3 Olympic qualifying tournaments, all done without the help of an assistant coach in the corner for each fight. As a spokesperson for Everlast, Cary created a boxing class format for 24-hour group fitness called Everlast Shadowbox and was a part of several print ad campaigns for Everlast. Cary founded the Knocking Out Obesity Tour, which stopped at 10 of the, quote, fattest cities in the nation, according to Men's Fitness. Cary conducted non-contact boxing workouts with students at 10 middle schools in the nation. In the beginning, she founded Primetime Boxing, Inc. and created Primetime Boxing Club, a nonprofit organization that offers scholarship programs to pay for the training, equipment, and travel expenses of disadvantaged children. Cary grew Primetime Boxing, Inc. to 4 boxing clubs in California and even started franchising in 2008. Cary has worked with thousands of young girls, teaching them boxing, but the biggest lessons they have learned from Cary is that they can be strong, smart, and successful without sacrificing their femininity. Her work with young women got her recognized by the California legislature, along with Brandi Chastain and several other women in sports, for her contribution and impact on girls' sports. Cary has taken those years of experience in the boxing, fitness, and gym world to create something unique for women in combat sports, Tussle. Tussle not only designs and creates gear specifically for girls and women, but also gloves that are the most versatile on the market. Before now, boxing gloves needed to be taken off to lift weights, get water, use a phone, etc. With an eye for innovation and a portfolio of Olympic-level boxers and everyday gym warriors, Cary created a boxing glove that will never interrupt a workout. Convenient, but with a beautiful, high-quality design. So welcome, Cary. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow, there's a lot of things in there. You do so much, sometimes you forget about those things. So it was nice to listen to that.
Yeah, it was really impressive. I mean, it's just kind of amazing all the things that you've done and created throughout your career.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if we could start by just having you take us back to the beginning. Like, how did you start boxing and how did you transition from boxing into coaching?
You know, my story is a bit backwards. I think usually athletes they'll be athletes, they'll be coaches, and then they'll open a gym. And what I did is I actually opened a gym first. I kind of have always been an entrepreneur at heart since being a child. You know, I'd pick mistletoe from trees, wrap a red ribbon around it, and sell it door to door. So when I graduated college, I actually have an environmental science degree. But I did not want to work where I was working. I was working for the government out of college, and I didn't like it. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to own my own business, and I really wanted to know, you know, what is it that I should be doing? You know, what is this business that I'm going to create? And I had a friend at the time who was a boxer, and I remember that person saying that they would go to the boxing gym, and there were a lot of people who wanted to come and do boxing, but the coaches wouldn't train them because they didn't want to be fighters. So they would just kick them out and say, I don't want to train you because I'm looking to build a champion. And that's kind of the way it was back then. And I thought, well, if there are so many people coming in and wanting to learn how to box, maybe I could open a boxing gym and they can come and pay to learn how to box, but not fight. And I thought, this person here, this boxer can be my head coach because I don't know anything about boxing. And I actually hated working out. I hated PE in school. but that's kind of how it all, started. And I went to, Google wasn't around at the time. So I went to the bookstore and I bought Business Plan for Dummies, and I wrote a business plan, and I went to the bank to get an SBA loan, and they gave me what they called a feel-good loan. And it just was basically, they felt really good about what I was doing. They thought I was going to be successful, and they felt good about me paying the bank back. So I got an SBA loan for $40,000, which for me was a lot of money. I come from very humble beginnings. And I ended up opening my first gym in the neighborhood that I had my early childhood in, which was a pretty rough neighborhood. And then as, opened the gym, the first year in business, made $100,000, which back in, 98, it was a lot of money, but it was also just a lot of money to me. And I thought, well, I'm kind of good at this, so I'm going to keep pushing forward. And, we've got more members coming in. And then all of a sudden the coach says, well, we need to hire another coach because we're getting too busy. And I said, well, I don't want more overhead. So just show me how to do it. And so he started to teach me how to be a coach. And then the next thing you know, I'm coaching individuals. We have a boxing team of youngsters that have come in out of the neighborhood. And I'm in their corner. I'm telling them what to do, how they're feeling, and all these things. And I thought, well, it's a little hypocritical of me to tell them how they're feeling in the ring when I hadn't been in there yet. So I decided I wanted to compete. And me competing was to be a boxer. It wasn't to be a champion. It was to gain a skill set and knowledge and an understanding about the sport, so that I could be a better coach. So very backwards, entrepreneur, coach, and then boxer.
Yeah, that's so impressive, though. It's like it's really a great testament to persevering. I mean, you had a dream, you pushed through it, you made it happen, and one thing led you to the other. And so I think that's great. In your introduction, it mentions that you cornered for multiple fighters at the Olympic training level. And so I'm curious, I have two questions. One is, for our audience, could you explain what it means to be in someone's corner? But then secondly, especially in those kind of bouts at that level, how do you motivate your fighters to keep going into the next round, especially if the current round didn't go so well? How do you motivate them to keep going?
Well, first, cornering basically means when you have a fighter, and whether it's amateur or pro, you're the trainer that's in their corner. Now, usually there are two coaches, so we have a second, which we call a second. So there's usually two coaches in a corner. But this gal and I traveled, and we went to the trials, just her and I. And this was the first year that women were allowed to box in the Olympics. So 2012 was the year that they were allowed to box in the Olympics, which was not that long ago. No. So, going into these tournaments, and it was just her and I, was very interesting because here I am as a woman at this level of coaching. And I think there was maybe one other woman that was a coach, but she also had like a second coach there, which was a guy. So there were two coaches. Whereas her and I, it was just her, it was me. I'm in the corner, two gals, up there in the ring. And so I was asked quite often by the male coaches, if we needed any help, and which was nice, but she would get a little perturbed about it and say, we don't need anybody's help. We got it. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, round by round, when you're in the corner for a fighter, the one thing that is the most important thing I always feel is being positive, even when it's negative. Meaning, if they have a bad round, you don't want to say, oh, your hands were down. Oh, you got hit by this shot, like saying something that is a negative and why they lost that round. Instead, you're going to say positive. If their hands were down, you're just going to say, okay, keep your hands up. which, it's both, it's the same thing, but the way you say it is so different in their mind and how they look at it, and then how they're going to go back out there. So anytime you're training an athlete, you want to say positive. It's not even an affirmation. It's literally whatever you're trying to describe. It needs to be done in a positive tone, rather than don't do this, do this. So don't, you don't want to use the word don't and use the word do. And that makes a really big difference.
That makes really good sense. And it also seems like really great advice as an entrepreneur, that, you have to take positives. You have to take what could be a negative and make it into a positive, and also how you frame things for yourself internally, and also your colleagues, your partners, looking at things in that positive way. And do you feel that element or that quality has helped you or had an impact in your professional life outside of the boxing ring?
The thing that's interesting about me, and I had this question asked a lot, did boxing and what you've done with boxing or coaching impact you as an entrepreneur? And for me, it's almost kind of the opposite, because in my soul, I'm an entrepreneur. That's me as a person. And so what I've brought into my boxing is a lot of that. So it's a little bit reverse for me. Facing my fears, fuel to my fire, what's firing me up, all these things, they're things that I have taken from my life even before boxing, and was able to implement that into the boxing world. But I will say that stepping into the ring as a fighter myself, was surreal, and it did give me even more of a sense of facing my fears. I mean, of course, I had to face my fears to step into the boxing ring, but when I did it, there was just something so intense about it, and such an accomplishment, because you're literally facing your fears. You're facing like a physical fear, of somebody punching you in the face. So it was a little bit different. It was real. It was, it was not kind of, oh, well, face your fears. Like I can do anything I put my mind to. It wasn't abstract. It was just right there in your face. And so I think that did help me to, become a better entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then from that world, and you've gone on to develop some wide-ranging programs, the Everlast Shadow Boxing program, the Primetime Boxing Club, Knocking Out Obesity. So what led you to go into that growth phase of, I want to go out from my single gym and expand? What was that process?
I think what it was is that I was successful with that single unit, and I thought, well, I could open another one in the next city, and then I could open another one. And it just dawned on me that if I had more gyms, I could touch more people. One thing about owning a gym or gyms, and training individuals, or just owning the gyms and knowing that those people who are coming to your gym are probably making life changes. Boxing is a very intimate activity. And so when a boxer is, with their coach, they tend to, all their barriers come down. A lot of times people start boxing, and I'm talking about just the average person. They don't need to be a fighter. But a lot of times they'll come into the gym because they've had something traumatic happen in their life. They could have had a divorce, a death, anything. And they're just trying to find themselves. And it might be something they always wanted to do and they were scared to do it. And now is the time. So they're coming in, and it's just really, it's life-changing for a lot of people. And then when you look at that and you're experiencing that, you go, well, if I have another gym, I can touch double the amount of people. If I have a third gym, I can touch even more people. And so that's really what drove me to grow the gym chain. And and then after that, which was not in my bio, but years after that, when I just had one gym left, there's a whole story in between all that, but I decided I wanted to certify trainers to teach boxing because I had then one gym. And I thought, well, I'm making an impact on all of these people, but what if I can train trainers to do my program, teach them how to teach boxing, then they're touching this many people. And then that next coach is touching the same amount of people. And so it was like, I could do this exponentially. And so I had created a B&B method, which is boxing and barbells, which is essentially how I came up with the innovative invention of my hybrid glove. So
Interesting. Isn't that neat? Like how one thing leads to the other. And as you're going through these developments and these journeys, what is your own inner self-talk? How do you talk? Do you use mantras or affirmations, or what is that process internally?
I don't have anything specific for a mantra, but it's, as soon as we all have negative thoughts. I mean, as soon as a negative thought comes into my head, I push it out and I'm immediately trying to think about what have I accomplished? It could be something small. It doesn't matter, but I'm looking back at something very positive and something I overcame, because then I go, okay, it kind of keeps me going to push through, because, we all have obstacles, doesn't matter what we're doing. And so we're continually trying to push through those things. And if you can just look back at some things that you've accomplished, small or big, I think that really helps.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. And so tell us what led to Tussle as a company and as your products. Was it your work in the gym and you're seeing a need, or how did that come to be?
Yeah. Well, over the years of working in the gyms and training individuals, I definitely had already seen the need for this gear, but it was never a thought in my mind. It was, I'm not going to, invent a new glove. I'm not going to make gloves just for women. I was very much on the service side of the industry. I wasn't on the product side. Although, I helped Everlast with like a lot of their products when I was working with them, but it never was something that I thought about doing. And the way that this all happened was it was literally only just over a year ago. I was at a fitness convention. I was presenting, but I also had a booth for my boxing certification. And I had already filed for a patent for my hybrid gloves with that boxing certification program. And I had a booth and I had, I was selling my program, but I had the gloves there. And a buyer from TJ Maxx approached me and asked if they could put in an order for my gloves. And I thought, wow, I could actually sell these on a bigger scale. And then it just, everything just started going through my head. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do product, I want to do it to where I can actually create product for girls and women, initially. We do have some stuff for guys, but like the whole soul of Tussle is creating gear that fits women well, and also is made beautifully, because, there aren't a lot of options for us out there for combat sports gear. And so it just kind of came to mind like, well, I think I want to move into product. Also, my body was a little broken, not going to lie, about, with, all of the training I've done and even coaching. I mean, coaching is very physical. And I thought, well, I could do this, and then I don't have to be so physical anymore. I mean, I work out every day, but it's different than being a coach and a trainer.
Yes.
So that's how Tussle came about. And, I wanted to think of a name that it meant fighting, but it had a little bit of a feminine tone to it, kind of a cute, fun, name but also meant a scuffle. And then that was Tussle.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. And now you're selling the gloves at Dick's Sporting Goods, I believe.
We have a test order that went on their website just not even a week ago, and they're doing really well. And so, yeah, just, I mean, getting to the point of being able to do a test run on their website was a big endeavor. And it's something I've worked on since March of this year. So yeah, 8-9 months.
So there's a lesson in persistence right there, because I'm sure there were moments in that process when you thought, oh man, this isn't going to happen. But
yeah, a
And
lot
so
of times.
in those moments, like what propels you to persist? Like what in those, like with Dick's Sporting Goods, in the moments when you may have thought like, I don't know about this. What kept you going through it?
I just kept telling myself that if I do something every single day toward my goal of getting my gloves into Dick's Sporting Goods, eventually it's going to happen. And so every day it was something, it was always doing something to get me there. I always feel like, you can think about what you want to be doing. You can have your goal set in your mind, but if you're not doing something every single day toward the goal, then it's much harder to get there and you may never get there. But if you do keep going, eventually you're going to get there. And if I can tell myself that eventually I'm going to get there, as long as every day I'm putting something toward it, then I'm moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that is really great advice, I think, for everybody, in whatever, for all avenues that we pursue. And I think through your coaching and mentoring and product development, you've interacted with thousands of people, and and through your speeches also. And it seems to me that for all of us, there's a point in anything that we're pursuing, whether it's a big goal or a small goal, where we reach a point where we have to make a decision. It's difficult right now for whatever reason. I'm going to keep on, or I'm going to give up. And I'm curious to know, in your working with so many people, do you have any sense of the factors that impact that decision of which way someone's going to go? Are they going to persist, or are they going to give up on something?
I feel like if you look at their history, a lot of times you can kind of already tell what's going to be happening. Unfortunately, people do have patterns. There's I don't think any hard, fast rule. Like, you see something in someone and you go, oh, well, I don't think they're going to be able to do this. A lot of people can surprise you. And I do think the ones that do persist and become successful in whatever they're doing, you can see that they are doing something every day toward the goal. And they also have a lot of positive talk. So they're not allowing a lot of negativity in their head. And we're all in control of ourselves, which then can control everything externally. But first we have to use our brain, and we have to control the brain, not let it control us. And that's how we get the outcomes that we want. We have to first perceive things in order to make those things a reality. And so being able to have some sort of mind control over your own mind is a big factor.
Mm-hmm. That's really great. It's a really great point. It's great advice. And in your motivational talks and in your work at schools, like with the knocking out obesity, and you worked with school children in 10 different cities, do you feel it? Is there anything you take away from those interactions with kids that you think that we adults could benefit from when it comes to facing challenges and just keep on going?
I will say that sometimes rose-colored glasses are great. And, they don't have a lot of the fear that we have, because, we get bombarded by so much, and we start to get really hardwired as adults as to what we're supposed to be scared of, or what have you. Where kids, they're not really like that. It's, I'm going to go and I'm going to try this. And they're very happy, and they're, smiling, and, they just don't have all of the baggage that we start to get as adults. And And I will say, going back to my very first gym I opened, I was 26 years old at the time, and I knew nothing about business. I didn't know anything about anything I was doing. I didn't know how to get a building. I didn't know how to do tenant improvements. I didn't know how to write a business plan, all these things. I didn't know how to grow a gym, do marketing. And for me, it felt really good. It felt really good to not know what was next, because then I didn't know how hard it was going to be. And so sometimes ignorance is bliss. And, like now I've been an entrepreneur for so long and I've had several companies. Now I know, like, as soon as I start a new one, I'm like, oh gosh, I know how much work it's going to be taking,
Yeah.
So a lot of times I wish I could go back and just kind of wipe all of that and start over and just not know what the work is going to entail, because then you just keep pushing forward. You don't think about how hard it is, because that's like a negative in your head. Right. So again, it comes down to, how do you control your mind? How do you keep your positive thoughts, and how do you go back and take those small little wins that you've had, or big wins, and just keep reflecting on it so that you can keep pushing forward.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. And now you've launched Tussle, and as a entrepreneur and inventor, I realize that there's limited things that you can say about the future and what you're working on, because you don't want to give away maybe too many secrets. But is there anything you can share about kind of what you're looking ahead to?
Really right now, it's, I kind of look at what's right in front of me, which is the Dick's Sporting Goods partnership. And, my ultimate goal is to do really well on our test run, and eventually get into, stores for a test, and then eventually get into all their stores with our entire line of equipment, not just our hybrid gloves. So really for me, that's my main focus. And, even though I come from the boxing world, the gear that we have is combat sports. It's fight fitness. So we have, shin guards and rashies, which is rash guards, headgears, sparring gloves, regular Velcro closure gloves. So, we're really encompassing, any of the fighters that are out there. And the hybrid gloves do get used a lot by gals who do MMA and Muay Thai boxing. So yeah, that's, really the goal is to continue to really take care of our female fight community. And I'm sure we do have some apparel, but we'll probably be getting a little bit more into apparel in the future. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the future holds. I don't have any new inventions right now. So we're just going to stay steady and continue to grow.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting time for me, at least, to be talking with you, because you are at the beginning of Tussle and getting that launched. And so it's going to be really fun just to watch that grow and see where you go with that. It's really, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
I wanted just to end with a couple of things. The first is, and some of this you've covered during our conversation, but if you were to talk to someone who's faced with a decision right now about, I'm going to give up on something or I'm going to persist through it, are there a couple of things that you would say to them?
Well, first of all, is this, goal that you have, like, have you thought it all the way through? Is this something you really, really want to do? Because I feel like a lot of times, if someone's not persistent with it, maybe that's not really what they want to do. So first, like, kind of looking at what is it, and is that where you want to be at? And then if that answer is yes, then again, it's, well, if you stop doing what you're doing now with all the time you've already spent on it, what if tomorrow was the breakthrough? What if tomorrow was where you reached that next level that pushes you to the next level? I feel like a lot of times there are individuals who could be very successful, and I feel like they give up right before something big happens. And I never want that to happen to me. And so that is another reason why I just continue to push every day.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you for that. And as a quick follow-up, would you say that some of the breakthroughs that you've had, did they come as surprises to you, or were you kind of seeing them come down the pike? Or was it sort of, okay, Dick said yes, so we're in Dick's Sporting Goods?
Never surprises, because every single day I'm doing something to get there. But what makes a lot of people discouraged is that when they're doing something every day, and they're not seeing any results, and it could be anything, it could be working out, doesn't matter, they tend to give up. But eventually something happens, and then you can look back and go, if I wouldn't have done those things every single day, this wouldn't be happening right now. So when something happens, whether it's big or small, and it's getting me to that next level, I can look back and go, oh, well, if I wouldn't have done these things, this wouldn't be happening right now. So never a surprise, but always puts a smile on my face.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Great advice. Thank you for that. And can you tell us how people can connect with you individually and also with Tussle?
Yes. My social media personally is cary.williams. My middle name's Lee. So CARYLAE Williams. And Tussle is Tussle Gear. So TUSSLEGEAR. And that is our Instagram. And most all of our socials all have the same name. So yeah, and once you get on any of the Instagram stuff, you're going to be able to click on the link in bio and find more information and websites and that sort of thing.
Great. And as I mentioned when we were talking earlier, I work out at a combat academy gym, and so I'll definitely be sharing the information about Tussle, and I can absolutely see the applicability of it. So yeah,
Great.
Kudos to you, and thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it, and it's inspiring to hear your story, and I look forward to following you and seeing what happens with Tussle.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. Gosh, I'm inspired to keep doing more every day to keep things going. So thank you so much, Cary. So I wanted just to close out with a couple of things. The first is you can connect with me at the Ring Thing. My Instagram page is at ring_thing_. The website is ringthing.com. And my email is Kimberly@ringthing.com. So please feel free to reach out to me. And I wanted to close out with a quote that really spoke to me today about persistence. This is from Napoleon Hill, who said, "Patience, persistence, and perspiration makes an unbeatable combination for success." And I think that today in our conversation with Cary, we heard about each of those things. Patience, persistence, and perspiration have helped her succeed so far, and continuing with her great success. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you to the USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbick for the opportunity. Thanks.